everybody. This is Joe Brown here. Another episode of the Real Game Unplugged. I have a great guest on today. He's someone that I grew in the game with, starting with C school back in the day. We wrote paragraphs in this country that I'm super proud of and wouldn't give up for anything. But my guest today is Tom Durkin. And Tom and me have been friends, competitors. We've leaned on each other for things, ask ideas. We're creative. A lot of people don't do that kind of stuff today. And we're just going to talk about the World Cup stuff, football in general, our relationship, where the game has been, where it's going now, and just really have a good coffee talk, and which could be a beer talk now, but good coffee talk, and just have a conversation. Hey, Coach Durkin, how are you, brother?
I am well, Joe. It's nice to be with you, even though we're in different rooms in different states.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
We've been in the same rooms, in the same state, in the same hotel, in the same hot tub. We've been. Now you're across the country.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So how's football treating you? How's soccer treating you? How's your life going? What's happening in your world right now?
You know, Joe, I love the game, and I love to coach, and I love to build puzzles.
Yes.
And I like putting the pieces together and molding a group of kids into a team and getting to think alike and having success with them. You know, that still gives me a thrill.
Yeah. And everybody that's watching, you know, Coach Durkin's background is phenomenal, right? I've learned a lot from him. You know, he's been a U.S. Soccer staff coach, educator. Many people that I know went through their B, C, and A badges, had to go. He was an instructor. He taught so many coaches and have bridged the gap from people that wanted to make it a career, just become better. Me and him competed on the field when he was the director at IMG Academy, and we had battles. We had a great time. But he's a Region 1 boy like me. He's coached the U.S. National teams, the under 17 level. He's coaching Major League Soccer, Division 1 soccer, Division 3 soccer. There's nothing that he hasn't done. And we come from a lineage, you know, all the way down to Walt, to the Jesuit days, right? That was our time when the NASL folded and we had that gap, you know, that vacuum that wasn't there. I remember having like 15, 17 Cosmos in my B school at Monmouth. They didn't have a job, right? When it folded, right? The kids we have today don't understand the history of where we've come from, right? And I think that's a shame. We need to teach them that. But, you know, Tampa Bay Mutiny, you know, IMG, Boston Breakers on the women's side, Rutgers University, giving the badges. There's nothing that he hasn't done that his paragraph and his narrative that he's written, a lot of people aren't going to do that. And so I'm happy he's one of my best friends, but I'm going to always lean on him. He's always, you know, I appreciate he gave me a great testimonial. We relaunched the company. And I'm just going to want to ask him some questions on, in today's game, you've seen the youth where we were before and where it's at today. And we're not going to solve the pay to play system. What are the things we're missing on developing these kids? I think they play too much or they travel too much as well.
I mean, pay to play is unsolvable. You know, I remember going back even with that pass back group that came in, and you know they're like, "Oh, you need an extra night," and this is in Boston.
Right.
This is with the Bolts. You need an extra night, and you need to have a trainer at the field. And I just can't. I just remember thinking, you know, now as a dad and having to do carpools and whatnot, I was like, man, it takes an hour and 25 minutes to get here. I got to get another kid somewhere else. We got to rent a field. We got to turn the lights on. And you want me to bring an athletic trainer out?
Right.
So, you know, we're never going to get around that. But I would say the biggest change for me, and I'm about to do a clinic in Dallas, and I was putting together what our ethos was for this Real Salt Lake, Arizona division for the MLS NEXT, because, you know, the club is massive.
Right.
You know, there's probably 9,000 kids in the club, boys and girls at all levels. And, you know, I read the mission statement, and I was I was a bit perplexed because I was like, this is not my mission. You know, so why I see the overarching part of it for the club, essentially, we have moved from player development to player identification. I would say that's the biggest change. You know, everybody, you know, it's spot a player, get the player. You know, I went back and I coached a U14 and a U15 team these past 2 years. We were 32-2 the first year. It was a great year, great group of kids. And my leading scorer, 48 goals, he now plays for the Galaxy.
Okay.
You know, my goalkeeper, 6'4" and growing, is now in Utah with RSL. And that's our job, is to produce players. And now my top 2 players are siphoned off by Utah. And then, you know, MLS clubs keep coming in for players. And sometimes it's detrimental to the player. So we had a big kid. We did a good job developing the kid, but needs more mobility, needed more refinement. But because of his size and, you know, the player, quote unquote, profile, as they say, the Galaxy came in for him. Tyson Wall, he played for me at IMG for a while, you know, and he didn't ask. He just said, hey, we want this kid, and we're thinking about taking the Generation Adidas Cup with us.
Yeah.
So the kid goes on a week trial. I knew he wasn't ready. I tried to tell Tyson he's not ready.
Yeah.
And, you know, the kid comes back. He's a bit of a wreck. You gotta, you know, put him back together again, because not only didn't he make the GA Cup, but, you know, he was, you know, he's sent back to us.
Right.
You know, so it's really become about identification. It's early identification. It's early specialization. And I've maintained, you know, for as long as I've been doing this, which is quite a long time now, is that for soccer to improve, it has to go back to the neighborhood. It has to start in the community.
Stop it. And, yes.
And, you know, when I was at IMG, I got to spend some time with Michael Johnson, you know, the world-class sprinter.
Yeah.
And Trevor Mowat, who has passed away, our sports psychologist, did a lot with the Michael Johnson Foundation. And he was in one day. I said, hey, I want you to talk to our kids. I want you to come and talk to our kids. And basically, his message was, I started out by becoming the fastest kid on my street. And then I became the fastest kid on my block. And then I was the fastest kid in my neighborhood. And then I was the fastest kid in the school. And then I was the fastest kid in the county. And then I was the fastest kid in the state. You know, I didn't start at the Olympics,
right,
and get 2 gold medals.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've just moved further and further away from that. I see a big improvement, Joe, to be honest with you, in the technical ability of our younger age groups.
Yeah.
So the entry level, pre-MLS, you know, because now it's got to be pre everything, but yeah. Pre-MLS, yeah. I see talent, you know, and then there's you know, it sort of fades off. I don't know if it's coached out of them. It's hard for me to tell. But then there's you know, when testosterone hits on the boys' side, there's certainly something that goes on there, you know. But you know, I got here. This will be my 3rd year. I put together a 4-year plan. I think I'm gonna be at the place I want to be now in the 3rd year. I think the staff is right. Our ID sessions have gone really well. We've identified what we're looking for. But if the, you know, the coaches, you know, you can't get the club in the line in the pyramid. It's impossible because there's too many people still with the mentality of win by Saturday. Yeah. I got to win the game. I got to keep my players. I got to hoard my players. So we couldn't even get, up until this year, the top players in our club to play at MLS NEXT. Right. There's a lot of misconceptions out there.
Yeah.
And then when they said, hey, what competencies are you looking for? What's your expectation for a kid coming at under 13? I was like, well, I expect a kid that's being trained 3 to 4 times a week
Right.
and paying to be trained, I expect the kid to be able to play with both feet, with his left and his right foot.
Yeah.
I expect the kid to be adept in 1v1 on both sides of the ball, and I want kids that will initiate 2 versus 1.
Yeah.
That's all I'm looking for. That's my start off point. If you give us that, we have something to go from. But come to find that the kids don't understand the game the same way that we understood the game, Joe.
Well,
They don't understand the principles, and it goes even back into the coaching school. When you say to a coach, what are the principles of defense, he'll tell you pressure, cover, balance.
no.
But there's 5 subcategories in there that are lost.
That just passes the test, right?
Yeah.
Some of the coaches, and you know it. Some of the coaches are going through all the schoolings. I did 6 audits and went over to England with the FA. I mean, I did the whole gamut. But some of the coaches, they just don't re-educate themselves when they get through, number one. But when you look back at, in our past on some of the things, when you said back to the neighborhoods, I think that when you have big clubs, I don't give a shit how many kids you have in your club. You really have 10, 15%, maybe 20 that are stud coaches. The rest are facilitators, right? The rest of them, a lot of guys that are in your position, they don't have the bandwidth to always do the coaching education for everybody, because you got to make sure the teams are good, the travel's good. You're running a business. It's changed. I mean, it's completely changed. So, with our company that we created, we're helping these clubs because there's no bandwidth. And some of these technical directors that are making good money, all they're worried about is tryouts, getting their kids. What kit deal can I get? And am I going to play in MLS NEXT? Am I going to play in ECNL? What tournaments? They go to tournaments that, quite frankly, they're useless trophy tournaments. They're playing too much. They're not real. You travel more than you travel more to training than the training time. We didn't do that. Traffic might have made the difference. But, when you talk about the neighborhood and you talk about, in our day when we had the McGuire Cup, and the McGuire Cup was the standard, right? You talk about Manny having the Union Lancers, right? His kids came he said one time, he's like, my kids come from a 25-mile circle, and he won national championships, right? It's and I believe what you just said is on the East Coast, we got kids flying to California, playing in tournaments. There's so much shit out there. I don't even know what it is. They're in their bracket, they're playing a team that's 3 hours away in Richmond. I'm like, we've missed the boat, because when in Region 1, where we come from, and I'm partial to that, sorry, you can go from Jersey to Virginia. You can go an hour, 2-hour ride back in our day, and you're playing the best players in the country. And you can still find those pockets, right? But when we got into the super clubs, that changed. I think that's the things that, and it got into the money system, because I don't think a lot of the coaches are re-educating themselves, keeping themselves, because I have 3 books of training sessions I still had back in the Wizard days that they don't have the resources. They have so many resources today that we didn't have, right? And some of them are just going through it. So when you talk about us localizing, trying to get things back, I agree with you 100%, because I think that's for the mental health. Let them kids and the parents have a life as well, because they don't, do they?
Yeah, so true. I mean, that was why, working at IMG Academy, it was an ideal life for me.
Yeah.
Because, I was home every day by 5:30, so you could have a really normal life. Not so much for the kids, that they're in residency and they're sacrificing a lot. But there's something to be said for making soccer better in your community. So, one day, I was at IMG Cup, and I see an MLS coach from the West Coast, and I mean, this is literally a middle of the road event, IMG Cup.
Right.
It's not top flight competition. And I was like, wow, hey, how are you doing? What are you doing here? He's like, oh, I got to look for players. And I was like, well, wouldn't the money be better spent developing the players in your community?
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't, instead of looking for players, this is what drives me a little batty about the MLS and their regions. You know, and I get it. They're under pressure to win and develop and find the next big player. But shouldn't you be working as a professional club to develop the talent in your community?
The simple answer, and you know it in South America, and you know it in Europe. And me and Keith the Bachelor were talking about this the other day. I said, we don't invest in scouts. We don't, there's more scouts in one club than probably 3 states combined in this country. We're so big. I mean, we're big. I mean, that's our problem is we're big. But if you're gonna, if I'm a professional club and I have the resources, you send in scouts out. They should be scouts all the time doing stuff, right? And I don't think that we invest in the scouting aspect, no matter what level you are. And I think we need to change that. And the roadmap, the templates are already set for it to be done. Certainly, when you have, we played, I think there's still 4 regions in U.S. soccer, which was too big. They should have had 8 or 12, right? But it was much more pure when we're on the regional staff and the kids made ODP because like you said, they're the best in their club. Then they made their little areas, and then they made the state team, right? And then it was pure. Now we don't know. Now that it's changed, and when MLS got into the youth game, because MLS clubs, the kids should be not paying because they're going to be sellable commodities. Now what happens? A kid that pays, how does that happen? How does that happen? The kid that pays, is he a commodity now, or what are they going to do with that?
I mean, it's changed so much, Joe, where, before you were coaching youth soccer and kids were trying to get into college. Now they all think they're going to be pros.
Yeah.
And, now where before you had the kids that said, hey, I want to be a pro, you would never burst that bubble. Now the infrastructure of the pro academies is so dynamic that you have to say, look, I don't think you're going to be a pro.
Right.
You should shoot for college.
Yeah.
The pro clubs themselves have a lot of scouts, but a lot of scouts they use Taka, which is the video system, and kids create highlight reels, and you have 14-year-old kids marking themselves out to professional clubs via the highlight reel, and then you have the scout. He rings you up and says, wow, we really like this kid's profile and we like this video. And then, I know the kid's not of that level. A highlight is highlight. That's exactly what it is. It's highlights. It's not the logo.
It's not going to be bad. I mean, when we do profile pictures for a media guide, we're going to make sure we look good. So, I think all that's bullshit, because if I'm scouting or I'm watching players, whether I have to watch a whole team or just one specific player, I want to know how he is before pregame. I want to see his attitude. Mm-hmm. I want to see how he's at. I want to see what's he like when the team is not good. How does he?
Well, the players are willing to go in on their own dollar. The parents are fueling it, saying, okay, we'll we had one boy, he went up to the Northwest. Now he's going all the way out east. And, I'm like, yeah, have a look at him, but I'm certainly not going to deny the kid or pan the kid.
No.
But had they called me ahead of time and said, what do you think of this kid? I would have told him that he needs work.
Yes.
He's not he's having been to the semifinal of the, MLS NEXT Cup last year.
Right.
And running into a buzzsaw, which was Orlando City.
Yeah.
What the level is.
Oh, yeah.
You know what the level of an academy is.
Oh, yeah.
So those are the 2 banes of my existence right now. Are the players' ambitions and their aspirations are a little bit over the top, and the parents are crazy with it.
It's
more so than the players themselves.
right. And that's our low hanging fruit is parent education, because a
Mm-hmm.
kid today, and think about this: when you play club ball, did your dad paid $3, $4, $5,000 for you to play club ball back when you were growing up?
Joe, I asked my dad I wanted to go to soccer camp, because I heard of this offshore soccer camp. And he told me to take a ball out in the backyard and pitch a tent, and I could have my own camp. I'm not paying for that.
Yeah,
You're out of your mind.
yeah. But a kid, by the time they're in the sophomore year of high school, they already spent 130, 140 grand on this mythical scholarship or this pro contracts waiting for them. And we're trying to tell the parents, what's your return on your investment? Listen,
Yeah.
I have no problem paying for services, but you got to know where you're going to go, because now, high schools are colleges. I got one school that's building a $10 million basketball arena. Colleges are like pros with NIL money and the facilities, and they're going to be splitting their seat. It's changing. These kids don't know. And all my boys are Division I coaches. They'll take an 18-year-old male if he's a stud, if he's a blue chipper. But other than that, they want men now. They want men, and there's nothing wrong with playing Division II, III, JUCO. You can get your NIL after 2 years playing Division. Sometimes you have to grow and get better and get stronger. But even kids that are in MLS NEXT or ECNL, there's bad kids, there's good kids in both of these. Let them fight their stuff. But I think the kid, at the end of the day, what are you going to do with the return on investment, mom and dad? What is your end game from here? Because a lot of them act like they're their kids' agents, and some of the coaches in the college ranks don't want to deal with that stuff. How do you deal with the parents, when they're like, they think they're their agent, they know everything, they don't want to listen to you. We need their income for the club. He actually is a good player, nice kid. Please don't listen to my mom and dad. I'm sure you've heard this stuff before. How do you deal with that?
There's been times where I've been absolutely gutted. Coaching a really successful team of nice kids, but we have these things in MLS Next. They're called flex games, and you have to win the flex games to get into the flex. And, we were in Las Vegas, and it was, 40-mile-per-hour winds, and we were playing on top of a mountain, and the field was hard as a rock. And, I got, U15 is a funky age because you have some,
They're changing.
Yeah. Some kids are big and some kids aren't.
Yeah.
And kids, very technical, good players. But I was like, man, against the wind, I cannot play this kid.
Yes.
Because I need the flex points to qualify so I can play the kid in the flex where he's really going to show what he's worth. And, the dad's like, you're killing my kid's confidence.
Here we go.
And
I was like, happened. You hurt my kid's self-esteem. I'm like, no. Listen, you need to shut your face. He don't live with me. The self-esteem is not my department. I have had that said to me before. I'm like, they're not good enough. I don't know what to tell you, because I'm a reality check. It's been not great for me sometimes because I am so, you know me. I'm going to tell the truth, because I'm not going to carry it and be on eggshells the next day. I'd rather them leave, right? There's another kid that will want their spot.
True. So that, that's the tough part really now is, dealing with a kid who doesn't get selected to go to residency program in Utah, and he's 14 and he thinks his life is over.
Yeah.
And I've always heard about the kids that wash out of the academies in England, and at the age of 16, and how depressing it is for them when they don't get the contract. Yeah. And now, you see that happening, but, it's across the board with players that have, like no chance, zero chance.
Dude, they had zero chance. They had zero chance when they were 10.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I could go watch 10-year-old kid playing, I know this kid's gonna be a player down the road. You can just see, you can see kids right away that aren't gonna be. I can tell you that. It's the middle ones that you have to look at. You got the good section, the section is not gonna be good. What does the middle section have for you? And I think we all deal with that and hope in the middle section will come up. But a lot of time, in a lot of the clubs, what you deal with, we have mental health and things like that for kids as well.
Hmm.
People don't take advantage. Mental health is actually not being used in any sports across the country in specialized places, and people have the resources, but parents need to find that stuff, and because that can make a big difference for a kid, right? That just that
Yeah.
small aspect. And they just
I
don't.
mean, for sure, it's one of the four pillars of the game. We spent a lot of time on fitness. We spent a lot of time on technique. We spent a lot of time on tactics,
Yep.
but we spend nearly no time on,
Mental.
what it takes to have the right mentality.
Because you don't know, it could be come from broken family, granddad died, whatever could happen. People don't understand, and that kid's got to perform, and they don't understand that. They don't, and you as a coach or the people that's managing the group, they're not even told that, and all of a sudden their performance is not there. So mental performance is actually huge, and so that's what we talked about is great conversation, because me and you could probably talk for 10 hours because we ain't even touched some of the stuff. So we're going to do this again on some stuff. But I always finish, one of the things I want to get out of you, since you were with US Soccer a long time, certainly at IMG Academy, you saw all the national team players come through. You have relationships. We're all blessed. The game's been good to us, right? And experiences, and the game at the high level. Some of the players that are out playing that you saw them when they were how was your reaction on how we did last Friday? What did you think? Because I'm super excited. I didn't know we were going to be as sharp as they performed in the first half.
Yeah, I was thrilled,
Yep.
and I was surprised how well they played, and how long they kept up the pace of the game and the intensity of the game and the quality of the game. And then we started. We were watching me and a few of my friends, and we were like, "Man, the kids are getting a lot of room." I'm like, "They're making room."
Yeah.
And they were super full of confidence on the ball going forward. They were good. They were good around the box.
Yeah.
Very good in the final third, which was always my biggest bugaboo. We're not good in the final third.
Yep.
So I was thrilled. I was like, "Wow, I wish Walt was here to see this."
Yeah.
I wish some of the Himalayas that have left our world
Yep.
were able to see that finally all the hard work is coming together.
Yep.
And I'm super excited for Friday. I can't wait till Friday.
Yeah. So that's the next thing. So what's our challenges? What me and you coach at a high level. What are your challenges? What are the challenges teams have right now? This is your locker room. You're touring with the guys. You're traveling up to Seattle, preparing them for this meeting on a team you didn't think was going to have success, as they did. That's coming in now. They probably have a little confidence in them. What's the mentality of our guys? What do you think?
I think they're pumped. I think they got a lot of confidence from that game. You and I talked after the Germany game. The first 60 minutes were quite good.
Yeah.
I like what they did against Senegal, albeit they gave a couple goals away.
Yeah.
But I think the confidence is sky high. I think they're going to step out and do it again.
Yeah.
And I think Australia is going to be, they're going to present some problems. They play with five guys across the back, four in front of them.
Yeah.
And they were extremely difficult to break down.
Yeah.
They have the giant in the back that he's going to sweep up everything in the air. So it's going to take some nice combination play to break that down.
Yeah. Continue what you're doing. They need
exactly.
Let's take what you did last Friday and slide it up a notch. Have the confidence. The crowd. the crowd's going to be amazing there. It's going to be off the
For
hook,
sure.
you know? And no, I'm super excited because, we get through that. We get the result, have 3/4 of that performance we had on Friday. We're going to be dangerous going through. We're going to be, it's going to be interesting. And I hope that they can give Christian some rest because he's still a question mark. But I'm also confident that if he has to not play, that we're still going to get through.
I mean, they set the bar.
Yeah.
Now it's, can they raise the bar? Can they be successful playing a little bit under that bar?
Yeah.
But I think this is a group, from what I saw, I think they're gonna live up to that. And we still haven't seen, the likes of some of the substitutes for an extended period of time.
Yeah. No,
So
I was super ecstatic and not just in shock. I was like, holy shit, we can play. These guys can play now. A lot of teams in the past, we chase shadows sometimes, right? And just, got in, got out. And no, we owned the ball. We owned the park, right? That was nice to see. So, but no, I will send you everything you know about what we did today. I want to touch base maybe in a couple weeks and we'll recap the World Cup and we'll have another topic. But if there's something that you want to talk about next time, let me know because I think it's important, and also get involved in what we're doing here because what we're doing here is pretty special and things are starting to happen well for us.
Well, you deserve it, and I'd love to be involved.
Yep.
It's always a pleasure working with you.
Yeah, man, we have a blast. But listen, Coach, I'll talk to you later. We will definitely get together. It's a pleasure always having you. You're one of my best friends, and I'm grateful and I have so much gratitude that you've been in my life. And I will talk to you soon, and thanks for spending time with me. This is Joe Brown,
welcome.
the Real Game Unplugged. Coach Tom Durkin with me. Super excited for the World Cup game on Friday, and hopefully we're going to get this podcast out before the match on Friday, before the U.S. national team game. Cheers, brother. I'll talk to you later.
Cheers.
All right, man. Thanks.
Over now.
Bye.